everyone, and welcome once again to Takeaway Thursdays. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a reminder that all of these talks, if you missed any of them, they're all on BBD TV on YouTube. Alternatively, you can find all of the recordings of these talks on the Hive. They've been uploaded there as well. Today, we're going to discuss a topic that I think is important for every single person, not just at BBD, but anyone who's had to make a big shift with regards to the lockdown restrictions that we've experienced all over the world, actually, due to the pandemic. Today's talk, titled Moving Without Moving, will be given by two spectacular speakers. And without wasting any more time, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So I'm Emma.
And I'm Callum.
We're both part of the grad program, and we're here today for this Takeaway Tuesday to talk about something a little bit different, so not very techie, but something that's very much a part of the culture of BBD, and that's moving teams. So with BBD being the company that it is, having such highly skilled employees and individuals and so many varying skills, it's almost common and almost a rite of passage that you do move teams. Your skills might be needed somewhere, manpower might be needed, but moving teams while in lockdown is a very different experience than moving teams outside of lockdown or just at the office. This is something both Callum and I have experienced, and today, we just wanted to share our experiences on this and hopefully some helpful tips for moving teams either in the office or while in lockdown, especially since BBD is now moving towards more of a hybrid model of working where people will be working from home and at the office. So that's what we wanted to just chat about today.
Yeah, so the first step in like moving projects is, of course, like the leaving part. So obviously, like this process, Emma and I both have only experienced this once, but like from what I've seen, at least, it's basically just first you get a call going, hey, who has these skills? What's going on? And then from there, it like snowballs, and then you get a call from your project manager going, hey, you're moving. And it's a bit of a shock. I think also with us having been in our first project, we as grads, we like didn't have as much handover. So for us, it was like really quick and easy to move us. So it was legitimately like on a Friday I heard, and then on the next Monday, I was having a call with my new project manager. And then the next day I was on a brand new stand-up, having to like meet everyone and figure all that out. So like leaving is a lot quicker, it seems, during the lockdown. Now Emma will let you know what she felt.
Yeah, so I think one thing that's super important, as Callum said, both him and I, this was our first project, so there wasn't much of a handover, but for people who are more a part of the team and are very important to the team, handover is a very big thing. So you need to be able to leave your work in a state that you're comfortable with it at, and make sure that people understand where you were, so that they can carry on and move on with the project. Also, leaving can be sad. Leaving your team can be very sad, but I think it's important for not only personal growth, but growth within the project and the company itself. So it's just a part of the experience. And then we have the next stage, which is meeting your new team. I had a really great experience with this one because my new team lead organized a meeting the week before. And then I met everyone in the new team, which made me feel a lot more comfortable, because then I didn't start the new week fresh, not knowing anyone or anything. I knew the people, and then from there we had the project onboarding and so on, which made me a lot more comfortable. And I was fortunate enough to have someone in the team who reached out to me beforehand, which also made me feel a lot more comfortable. But especially now with everything being on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever platform the team is using, those first impressions or conversations are a lot more different. So you just need to find yourself adapting to these things and trying to make as good of an impression or put as much effort in as possible.
Yeah, and then meeting from my side was a bit different. I met a because also I was moving from one part of BBD to a very different part of BBD, and I went from a just development role straight to a production support role. So both of those changes also made it quite difficult. But the meeting process was basically met with team members at the start. They started helping me set up the project. We had a 4-hour call on the first day because one of them were leaving, and I had to get the project up and running so that I could start helping. So it was definitely like a bit of needed a running start there. But yeah, I mean, like the meeting process was okay for me. Got to meet the team, generally got to know them, got put on the WhatsApp group for all the memes, all the important things, of course. And then the next step is learning. So with learning, like, of course, when you get into it, you're not going to know all the stuff you need to know, right? Like, especially as a graduate, you're coming in and you know what you know from university or We Think Code or wherever you came from. And there's a lot of learning that needed to take place. So for me, I basically did a lot of Pluralsight to start with, figuring out the different tech stacks and all of that stuff, just figuring out if there is an error, where do I even go look in the code base? Having to learn that stuff like is interesting. It was also a bit difficult to actually like error trap and explain yourself to someone else. Especially like over messages and Slack calls and stuff. It's a lot easier when you are just in the office and go put up your hand and go, hey, like I need some help, and the person can help you for 5 minutes and it's quick and easy, compared to actually having to send a message, wait for them to respond, and then they don't understand what you sent, and like that does slow down the process a bit. But yeah, like learning's crucial, and like I had to do it pretty quick. Yeah.
I think also one of the things a lot of people forget is starting up a project, all the repos that you need to clone, all the access you need to get, and it's all those little things, and how to run a certain project. You might need to run it this way or that way, or run it with this other project, and that can also be incredibly frustrating. Luckily enough, a girl that was in my team, she had created a spreadsheet because she was also quite new to the team. And every time she had a new repo she needed to clone or new access that she needed, she wrote it down in the spreadsheet. And then when I came to the team, she shared that with me, and that was incredibly helpful. So I think if you are moving teams, maybe start something like that, or moving projects, just because for your own sanity, it might be helpful. But I think if anyone else comes into the team, it makes the onboarding process a lot easier for them and a lot less stressful for them as well. And this period can also be incredibly frustrating because I like to jump in and get working and do stuff. But the learning period of the project and getting to know the project and how it's all put together and all of that is very important. Not just for you to understand what you're doing, but for the team so that you can give your absolute best to the team and the project as well. So with this phase, I think patience is key here. But also don't take so much time that you're not an asset to the team then as well. So then we just want to share some tips and tricks that we think might be helpful if you find yourself moving teams.
So friendly conversation is basically with like coming into a team, right? When you haven't spoken to them outside of like work, especially because it isn't at the office and you don't have those conversations about someone comes in on Monday and you're like, oh, hey, like, what did you get up to on the weekend? And then you like start a conversation on that. And from that, you'll learn they're interested in this and you and that person have similarities, and like you get quite a friendly relationship and quite a social relationship. Over like messages and calls and stuff, it turns into a lot of the time just being about work. And so there isn't that joking nature and that messing around with each other sort of thing. And it's especially difficult when you're just coming into it. Because like you don't have the relationship from outside of having to stay at home to like fall back on and know that, oh, this person's interested in that. So like I can send them a message about that. So friendly conversation is really just like if new people are joining a project or you as a new person are joining a project, make sure to like start asking people about what they're interested in and like what stuff they care about, what they got up to on the weekend, and like really like invest in them. Make sure that you put in the effort to actually learn who they are, learn how they work, because that's then going to actually help you like in your work experience, because you know that you know the person and you can actually go, you know what, I know this person's having a bit of a rough time. I don't mind helping them. Well, if you don't have like that understanding, you're less likely to be willing to help because you're like, oh, they're being stupid or whatever, when you don't have the full story. So really investing in the person and making sure that you get to know them on more than just a work-based level will help the team as well as everything else.
Yeah, and I think if I can just add something on here, is that BBD is a very social company. You know, it's a very social environment, places a lot of emphasis on its people. And knowing that it's a tech company, there are a lot more introverts than there are extroverts. But in saying that, there's many different avenues by which you can get in touch with people and get to know people. It doesn't have to be a Zoom call. It can just be a message or whatever you feel comfortable with. But I think investing in your teammates and getting to know them is very important for yourself and for your team. Then we have cameras on. So the normal process of moving a team is you would either go to the new office that you're working at or the client, you would meet your team, they would help you with some onboarding stuff, you would see everyone in person, then you get going. Now it's all about scheduling Zoom meetings and, you know, Microsoft meetings and all of that sort of stuff. And I think you need to be able to be as purposeful as possible with your meetings, because a lot of people have their days filled up now with meetings. And yeah, I think it just needs to be a meaningful interaction with the person that you're talking to. And with cameras on, so specifically now, being able to see someone, I think is very beneficial because you can see how they've reacting to something you're saying or feeling about something. And that can help you sort of gauge where you are with them and where you are with the team and that sort of stuff. And also, you don't have to talk all the time. I know I do this. I just put myself on mute and I just nod. So you don't have to be talking all the time, but just being present and engaging is a very important aspect of meeting your team and getting to know them.
And then patience is going to be really important for both sides. Like, you're going into a project and you're having to learn stuff, and like it's going to take time. It's going to take time to learn all the new processes, all that stuff. Like, I mean, it took me yesterday 3 hours to deploy something that should have been like an hour maximum. And it's just because I don't know the steps, and then the documentation isn't always like fully up to date and things like that. So you really have to have patience with each other and go that, like, if something like isn't working for someone else, you must have the patience to actually work with them and work through the process and stuff, because stuff that you think is obvious probably won't be obvious to them, and like they won't even think about it, or they won't even know where to look to start with. And with this, like, there's, of course, you have to ask questions. You have to find out what you don't know. But I think what's also really important with that is you must ask the right questions. Because if you're just asking the person question after question after question after question, they're going to get annoyed because now they can't do their work because they're constantly having to respond to this person who's just asking questions. And two, like, if you actually go, okay, cool, I need to find out this. What can I do to show that I've tried to get this information and it failed? As soon as you show that to someone, normally they're a lot more helping, because they go, oh, they haven't just gone and done the process I would have done. They actually need my input. It isn't just like I need to point them towards a file and, oh my God, how do they not know where that file is? It's actually like that you can see they've put in the effort. You can see that you've tried, and you've like tried to find out where the information is and get the answer that you need without having to like interrupt them from their work. And you're only interrupting them because actually you don't know where else to go and you don't know what other information you need. And that's, go for it, Emma.
Yeah, if I can add, struggling is a part of the learning process. You are going to struggle because there's no possible way that you can know everything. It's just, there is so much in our industry to know and to understand, and you know, you can't be down on yourself because you don't know everything right away. It's just not possible. But realizing that struggling is a part of that learning process is important, but also realizing where you're being hard-headed is also important. So you can't be struggling the whole day with one thing because that's a bit of a waste of time. And then you're not adding value to your team as well. So you can struggle and try to learn and understand things, but there needs to be a point as well where you, as Callum said, start asking questions and the right questions at that. So questions that will help you get to the goal that you're trying to achieve. So yeah, that's what we have for you guys. We're open to any questions if anyone wants to ask questions.
Emma and Callum, thank you so much for being awesome and amazing speakers today. to our audience, thank you so much for joining us once again. Remember that this talk and all the others that you possibly missed will all be on the Hive under SideQuest, and you can see the recording of all of those talks, as well as talks that are coming up in the near future on the Hive. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.